Okay. So I was talking about how this came up, and the immediate thought was that there's only one person who can talk about this topic, who's a global coach in every sense of the word. When I'm mentoring um, coaches for MCC or PCC, there's a lot of discussion on this topic, and I do have a global audience. It's because everyone's based out of US, Europe, and other places. So this discussion does come up. And the wonderful thing is that I see that cultural sensitivity in the sessions, in the one-on-one sessions, and all of that. And I really wanted to get this topic and get this webinar and this discussion to ICF Delhi so that, outside of the folks I'm mentoring, we can talk about this. And yeah, so uh, one second, Debashi, can you
Yes.
mute the participants, please? Except Jean-Francois, of course. That's where I'm coming from, and that's the thought behind this entire discussion today on a Saturday afternoon. So, to just begin with the entire topic of cultural sensitivity, I mean, it's really required in the world, right? And you've been a coach for years, been the director or been the chairperson at ICF Global, and you've really covered, I mean, the entire globe with coaching, and you've got that experience. So, Jeff, how do you see the cultural sensitivity enriching journey towards the coaching mastery aspect?
Thank you very much, Sandhya, for the question. Thank you for all your work, Sandhya, in preparing today's conversation. Thank you, Debeshi, for your kind introduction. And I want to extend a very warm, soulful namaste to all of you, and a special buenos dias to Marcela, who is joining from Mexico, where it's 2:30 a.m. Can you believe that? How we have a
Wow.
superhero here, right? Marcela, you rock. We'll keep you awake, hopefully, right? And so
We
yeah,
must.
today is my birthday, like you kindly mentioned. Thank you for the lovely picture. And actually, talking about Delhi, in 2019, I was in Delhi, and we had a celebration as the global board of the ICF was there, and I was the chairperson at that time in Delhi with ICF Delhi NCR chapter one evening, and perhaps on the day of my birthday or the day afterwards. So I met some of you over there in a hotel, and I remember that evening with a lot of warmth in my heart. It's always a pleasure to be in your community. So thanks for the invite. And to your question about how do you see cultural sensitivity and enriching the journey toward coaching mastery, perhaps I will start with a few words about mastery first, right? To situate the cultural sensitivity, perhaps along the path, right? I see coaching mastery as effortlessly enabling our clients to empower themselves to bring out their best, bring out their greatness, right? So effortlessly enabling clients to empower themselves to unleash more of their greatness, right? And so to reach to that state where we can coach effortlessly and do so, two ways to look at the path, right? One is you and me have to have to do so many mistakes. The proverbial 10,000 hours, cut down to 2,500 by ICF, right? 10,000 hours to mastery stands for time enough to do thousands of mistakes, right? And God knows I did more than my fair share. We'll talk about that, right? Another lens to look at the path towards mastery, I guess, is also the path of self-development towards self-mastery. That starts with self-awareness, right? And Lao Tzu, the Chinese philosopher of 3,500 years ago, right, said it well when he said, when he talked about the path from knowing oneself to knowing others, and then mastering oneself to mastering others, right? And that's where cultural sensitivity starts to kick in fact, right? Gaining self-awareness implies gaining awareness of our potential cultural biases, in fact, right? And it's really, really important we get that. So, for example, one of my cultural biases is achievement, right? A lot in the doing, not in the being. Being French, educated in a Western fashion, right? And that created so many mistakes when I started coaching, in fact, right? My rush to achieve, co-achieve with a coachee, whether they were ready for it, whether they even wanted it or not, right? And I remember that conversation in a cafe with a great Turkish client, a lady who had asked me to meet her in a coffee shop because it was more convenient to her. I have to say, I hate coaching in coffee shops or any noisy, busy places. I should never have accepted, but I did, right? And so I came with my impetus or pulsion to that conversation had to create value, right? I had to perform. I was very young as coach, right? And I was kind of a bit frustrated by the noisy environment, right? So I kind of just greeted the client quickly, right? And then rushed into doing coaching with her, right? And I remember that very painful moment where we were going nowhere, right? And I was not sensitive enough to notice it at the time, right? That moment, 15 minutes into the conversation, where she told me, this is not working. This conversation is not working. Why don't we start from scratch again and just have a nice time connecting with each other? Wow. I paled at my terrible mistake, right? Extreme cultural insensitivity, right? She's from the Middle East, right? We've got to establish the relationship each and every time. And if it takes time, it's time well spent with a huge return on investment, right? So you see, lack of self-awareness, right? And so very far from self-mastery, right? So that's a length to look at the development to mastery. Also, it really necessitates self-mastery, in fact, which necessitates cultural knowledge of one's cultural biases, in fact, right? And then when I'm coming back to how I speak about mastery, that effortlessly enabling clients to empower themselves to unleash their best, right? My favorite posture in coaching is to be the student of the client, thereby offering the client a comfortable space to teach me what I need to know about them and about what's the best way to partner with them as a coach. And so that posture of the coach as a student of the client teacher enables me to be curious, unbiased about their world, and therefore be safer against lacking cultural sensitivity because I presume nothing. I'm a white paper, white page on which a client can draw their future, right? That's part of mastery, and so cultural sensitivity can play in many ways, and we'll talk more about that later on,
Oh,
right, in
of
detail. But
course.
yeah, I wanted to
Yeah,
bring
that's
a few ideas.
beautiful. That's
Yeah,
amazing. It's amazing. And I think a number of coaches here, all of us would identify with those challenges that we walk into a coaching conversation trying to fix something and that we must have some uh, tangible product or outcome in hand. I mean, it's not going shopping, right? So that's something I think everyone will resonate with. And I love the way you spoke about self-awareness and then going into mastery. That is, it's not just self-development, it is, can I say, developing your emotional intelligence, right?
yeah,
Self-awareness leading to awareness about somebody else so that you can manage your relationship with them.
yeah,
Yes.
absolutely,
Yeah.
Sandhya, yes.
Yeah. That's the essence of most relationships, right? So, in your experience, Jeff, and I'm so happy that you shared this experience with the lady from the Middle East and cultural preferences, where they want to meet, how they want to connect is also so different. I mean, the West sometimes is more direct, right? And maybe you've noticed this in Thailand and the Far East also. There is the warming up is required.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and it's time really well spent, right? So I'm ever
absolutely.
grateful for this absolutely great client of mine. We're still in contact. I love her to pieces, and she's great, and she taught me well.
Right, right. So, in your experience, would there be any strategies that have worked for you in uncovering and respecting the cultural values? How do you do that? That 15 minutes, 10 minutes well spent. Any strategies for that?
Yeah, yes, and maybe I'll share a slide that I just I used last year for
Sure.
wxcoaching.com, right? Because it kind of providing a visual of some of the things that perhaps can be helpful, right? And it's very important before a session with a client, be it a client from a different culture or from our own culture, to prepare ourselves energetically to be that catalyst of self-empowerment and transformation by the client. Right? I remember among the countless mistakes, coming in very energized with a Scandinavian client, and my energy overwhelmed my client, who was an introvert in addition, right? And that was very, very bad of me. Again, a total lack of cultural sensitivity, in fact, right? That client needed a calm energy, not too warm, right? An energy that's already tuned to reflection, right? So just adjust our energy at what we sense will be a good level to start the conversation with our client, right? And if I'm going to work with my Turkish friend again, right? My energy will not be calm, will not be cool or blue, right? It'll be a little bit more fiery, lots of warmth and love in it, right? So that would be a first strategy, right? Come in with the right energy, because the client gets our energy in the first half second they see us or hear us, right?
Right.
And that in fact affects them, and it's got to be to infect them in a way that's helping them, right? Also get into the dance, right? And then and then we've got as a second step to do that meet and greet, can be long, right? But it's necessary because it makes the client coachable, and rarely are they coachable from the get-go. Often they come from outside. They are in another world than the world of a coaching session, right? So it's important not to rush that, right? And uh, and that's also that can be calibrated to the cultures of the client, right? Some cultures will be comfortable going quickly into intimacy, into vulnerability. Some cultures will need a little bit more time to go in vulnerability or intimacy. We've got to take whatever time it takes. We've got to take that time, right? It takes for clients to go into intimacy and into vulnerability, in fact, right? So what I'm saying here is, if I simplify it, go slow first to go faster later, in fact, and deeper, most importantly, right? Yeah, and then perhaps also, okay, we've got many cultural layers in us, not only the cultural layers from our culture in the formative years of our life, right, but also some others that we added over our life experience, right? But then underneath it all, there is a lot of other important things about clients, including their genetics, right? And their guts and their emotional nature, right? And for a coaching session to be effective, we need the whole of the client to work, not only their heads, right? We want their heart and their guts to connect to the work. Clinical research in the last decade or two have worked more and more on the heart and the guts as brains, right? With trillions of neurons, right? And with a huge storage of memories, way bigger storage than the head brain, right? And we want those three brains to partner in the conversation, right? And before we come to that moment in the coaching session where we ask a client what they'd like to choose as an objective for the session, right? It's important we have the three brains connected to the work, right? So easy ways to do that are to ask people what their hearts are telling you about the topic they think of bringing to the conversation, what their guts have to say about it, right? Or to make some remark about any emotion we may perceive in the body language of the client, or any energy shift we may sense in their body, right? But again, not too fast if the client belongs to a culture where it would be found as overwhelming to ask about their emotions like this, right? So connecting the whole of the clients, right? And then it's very difficult to ask culturally intelligent questions in coaching conversation, because what do we really know about the culture of the client, right? So my recommendation is to try to find ways that do not take the risk, right, to leverage the culture. And one way can be to ask the client to make sense of their emotion, make sense in their world of their energy shifts, right? Also to unleash their imagination, their intuition in their own world. And again, as coaches, as the student of the client teacher, inquire, challenge for clarity, for simplification, right? And then see where that takes us. And what is not adaptable or adjustable is the necessity to ensure the clients empower themselves to trigger real solid progress in their reality, in their ecosystem, right? With their yeah, and
Thanks. Thank you so much.
Among many culturally insensitive mistakes I've done, right, was again as a Western coach initially to miss to how would you say to neglect the importance of the ecosystem of the client in their work after a session, right? So, for example, someone had done fantastic work in self-development, come up with some actions, right? And then nothing happened. Why? Because the family opposed all of it, and I didn't know, right? I was culturally insensitive, didn't challenge, you see. And in the new set of ICF core competencies, right, you all have appreciated how the system around the client, right, is emphasized as something we want to check with the client, right? Yeah.
Right, right. Absolutely. Thank you so much for this. Because the new competencies, as you brought it up, is we are talking of the values. We are talking about diversity, not just to identify diversity, but that diversity that leads to inclusion, a sense of belonging, and therefore equity. That's the way the values work. And then every single competency is talking about how you accept and meet the client where they are. That's the beautiful part of all of these competencies, whether you look at the new one with embodies a coaching mindset or creating trust and rapport. It's all about acknowledging them where they are. And for that, we need to be comfortable with ourselves, right? And not have our own agenda or be the sage on stage who's wanting to just tell and achieve. That was so beautifully presented, JF. Thank you for that. And so, do you think these steps that we just spoke about, the 7 ways that the strategy, do you think this would also be able to balance a deep understanding of cultural nuances along with non-directive coaching? Would that work?
That can work, right? And at the same time, we've got to make sure we give a lot of space and enough time to our clients, right? To in that non-directive space to make sense, right, of their thoughts and their feelings and their transformation in the session, in fact, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that is, it is with the global village that we are today, the impact of cultural awareness is, there's really no words to describe how much it impacts, and especially through coaching, because the individual we are coaching has just put so much faith in us that it is really important for each one of us to get them. They need to sense that, oh, my coach gets me, right? And that's when the entire rapport and trust and everything, the collaboration happens. And that's when our coaching is effective, right? So, would you say that there are any other practices that coaches can adopt to better align their coaching styles? Is there anything else?
Yeah, perhaps this I talked about the importance of
Yeah.
demystifying our cultural biases, right? This is a lifelong process, I guess, right? It's
Yes.
not done forever once we work on it, right? We pile up more biases every day, right, of our life, right? So we've got to, I think, be consistent in the in working on our biases, right? There's so many, right? And that's critical to both our neutrality in sessions, right? And our cultural humility. And there is also something I want to say which is like so many coaches, including me at times in the past, right, were kind of panicked of not understanding the client, right? Because we had this preconceived idea that part of the job definition of the coach included understanding the client. And that what I want to say is no, it doesn't, right? Plus, it
Yeah.
would be delusional. There is no chance that one human being could understand another human being, right?
Totally.
Even a coach, not a chance in the world, not the client themselves cannot even understand themselves. That's why they come to coaching, part of it, right? They should understand themselves just a wee bit more, right? So no panic. And if you need proof of the absolutely non-necessity to understand our clients to do a great session, I'll tell you a story that has that is, I think, the most powerful light bulb in my coaching career. Right? It happened.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Well, wait, maybe not.
Okay.
Maybe it's gonna be terrible, right? Well, thanks for the optimism, Sandhya. I love you, right? So now it happened in Cancun, Mexico, about 18 months ago, right? I was doing a masterclass, right? And I wanted to demonstrate coaching with the energy of the client. So it was a predominantly Latino American crowd in the ballroom, right? So I invited a volunteer speaking Spanish, which I don't understand. I just understand a few words like buenos dias, right? I understand and invited a volunteer for a session where the client would speak to me in Spanish and I would speak to the client in English, right? And so a lady from Argentina volunteered and she came on stage and then I coached her with having no clue what she was telling me, just coaching her on the emotions, the body language, and the energy that I could see and sense. Huh? And then it went well. She cried abundantly, a very good sign that some transformation was happening, some release, some liberation, right? So wonderful. So I was convinced the session went well, and then it was time for a debrief with her and the audience, right? So I motioned my coachee to stand up, which she did, and then I asked her the simple question in English. Thank you so much for being my coachee. Could you please share your experience of this session with us? And she looked at me with blank eyes. She was obviously not understanding my question. So that threw me off balance, right? Because she had responded very well to my previous questions in the coaching session. And my question was very simple, really, right? And then one of her friends in the first rows of the audience raised her hand and said, she doesn't speak English. She doesn't understand English.
Oh, God.
So we had done this whole session where I was not having a clue what she was talking about, right? And she had no understanding of the words I was using, and and I had no clue. So, okay, yeah, we had a coaching session. That's the only one I did like that, right? The words were useless, but the intention of the coach and the response of the coachee were enough to make that session transformative. This lady let me know later on how she loved the transformation that that session had made to her life, in fact, right? Okay, so I hope any of you at times is feeling like I used to feel, like under pressure, I must understand the client, that it can relieve you of that pressure. You didn't know the story, Sandhya, right? I didn't tell that before, yeah?
No, I didn't. I didn't. And it is beautiful because this
Yeah.
is all about I would say intent counts more than technique here, right?
Yeah,
Intent,
absolutely.
reading the energy, and all of these glitches, or can we say the goof ups we've had through our journeys. It's like, I think it's that journey from unconscious incompetence to unconscious competence, isn't it?
That's right.
And the
Yeah.
EQ, development of EQ on the way, learning from other people. It's certainly been a beautiful journey for me. Thank you for that story. Debashi, do we have any questions or anything from the audience?
A
Anyone who's
lot of
bringing in?
reflections in the chat. No questions yet. Bharti is saying such a beautiful example, coaching beyond boundaries of language and also EI, emotional intelligence in practice. Manimala is saying unique and yet very interesting experience. And okay, there's a question from Suparna. She's saying, what do you want me to spotlight Suparna and spotlight people who have asked questions? Yeah,
Sure, that
let
would
me
be
do that.
great.
Just give me a second. Yeah, I can see Suparna.
Yeah.
Add a
Can you
pin.
hear?
Yes, please
We
ask
can
your
hear
question.
you. We can hear you, Suparna. Yeah.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Thank you. Just curious, because I don't want to make an assumption here, but I want to hear from you. What do you think transpired in that session where language was not understood?
I still don't know, Suparna. I still don't know what happened, right? We did a debrief, but it was about the experience, not the topic. I have no clue what I coached her about, in fact, right? Suparna, yeah.
And did anybody ask the coachee as to what she thought transpired in the absence of language?
Oh yeah. What she said, she spoke to that, right? She said that in a way her mind was not polluted by the words uttered by me, since she didn't understand
Wow.
them, right? And that helped her connect more deeply with herself, right? There was no language pollution from the coach, Suparna. Yeah.
Okay, so then it is your presence, your actual physical posture, maybe the expression on your face and the tonality that
Yeah.
led to her feeling and discovering and releasing whatever she did in
Yes.
that session.
Yes. And most importantly, Suparna, my unconditional love for her and her greatness potential. Yeah, I
This
said that
is,
at the very beginning, right? The most important to me about coaching is it's an act of unconditional love for the potential of the client. And she felt that in the first second. She probably felt that before she volunteered, right? And I had talked about that in the masterclass, actually, right? As insight number one on the path to mastery, coaching is an act of unconditional love for the potential of the client, right? Now, and maybe it enabled her to volunteer, right? And then she felt that, right? She felt loved.
This is huge implications for us as coaches to hear this, Joe, because sometimes I feel some of my clients, I think, are analytically and they have certain intelligence, they're smarter in their heads. But I think if a coach comes to the space with this hard work done, then are we covering like the major part of the work which needs to be done together with the client? And not, because see, technically it's brainstorming with the client or with the coachee in a creative and whatever way. So sometimes I feel that there's so many very intelligent clients, and so as a coach, maybe
We have a long
thank
list
you.
of people who
Yeah,
have raised hands. Beautiful
thank you,
question.
Joe. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you very
Chris,
much.
Why don't you ask your question? Thank you so much for volunteering to ask the question. You can unmute yourself, Chris. Yeah.
Hello, Francois. I saw this session. It was really, really great.
You were
But
in
as I
Cancun, Chris?
no,
Yeah?
it was I watched the recording.
But that
I
was
remember.
another one. Chris, that was the one I did the next day. The one you saw, which is on YouTube, that lady, she understood me, right? It's the day
Yes.
before the unbelievable session that happened without my knowledge, right? That one was recorded partly by some people on their phone, not quality material for YouTube, right? So what you saw, Chris, is less impressive because the lady understood my question. The next day, yeah, it was another lady. Yeah.
Yes, I could feel that she understood she was understanding your questions. Anyway, it was amazing. But my question for you is, when you're going to coach somebody from another culture, do you make any research about this culture to understand if they have the direct communication, they are more individualist? Okay, that's the question.
Yeah, thanks very much, Chris. I believe it's a very important question we've got to discuss today, and the answer is yes, yes, yes. Actually, not only I have spent a lot of time, and I'm spending time understanding the various cultures, but also I spend a bit of time every day to keep in touch with world news. Yeah, Chris, right? Because I work with clients on all continents, right? And if something important happens in their country, I need to know, right? If the client is in Peru, right, and there is a coup, which is not the case, there is no coup in Peru, right? But I would need to know, or if there are riots or drought or something like that, right? This is really important, right? Because one of our first duties in coaching is to ensure the well-being of the client, right? And if we come to the session with the guy in Lima, Peru, and there is a big problem in his or her country, and we have no clue about it, and say, "How are things going, man?" The guy has barely any electricity to do the session. It's not gonna fly, right? Yeah. So I'm disciplined in this, Chris, and my sources of information, I have like daily recap of international news from two media. One is G0, it's called G0. So they have a daily condense of the world information, of the world news, right? And the other one is Semaphore, SEMAFO, I think it's PHOR, Semaphore, right? They are not politically biased, right? They are neutral, and they tell me, and I'll show you, right? Because this is important for some of you who are global coaches. You certainly have the equivalent. I'm going to show you, if I can, how this goes. Yeah, I'm going to share that with you here on screen. Okay, so this is you see G0 daily, right? This one. They talk about Trump win one, Mexico, Syria, Belarus, Taiwan, and and then Semaphore is this one, right? So they have an America's morning edition and an Asia's morning edition. So they talk about Trump, of course, that was like a couple of days ago, right? But a bit about Davos, Gaza, South Sudan, Argentina, Huawei, Ozempic, and so it cost me like 10 minutes a day, right? And I don't miss anything major. So, by the way, Semaphore is SEM, as you can see, right? FOR, not PHOR, right? So those are two sources of information that are important on news, right, and on the culture. I recommend the book that you probably all know about from my good friend Philip Rosinski. I have a commission on any sales. No, too bad.
I already
So
have the book, so you are not going to sell to me.
yeah,
No commission.
okay. Oh, too bad I will not get richer. So coaching about culture, right? It's a bit of a Bible, right? And there are so many others, right? From all these distinguished people in the last 5 decades who've worked on cultural dimension. We need to be fluent about this, right? The cultural dimensions, right?
I'm happy
Yeah.
to hear that, because I have been asking these questions to very famous coaches, MCCs, and some of them say, no, I prefer to have the client as a blank sheet, and I truly believe that you have to know a little bit about the culture, because if you are not doing this, we cannot speak the language of the client, because you simply don't know the language.
Yeah.
So thank you for your answer.
You're most welcome, right? Imagine you coach an expat in Thailand who's coming from South Asia, India, perhaps Pakistan or whatever, and they come to Thailand for the first time, right? They are very ill-equipped culturally to achieve any level of success in management and leadership in Thailand. The cultures are profoundly different on many things, right? And if you are based in New York City and you have no clue about Thai culture and no clue about Indian culture in the workplace, right? Wow, then yeah, you are not going to be, I think, best able to challenge them, and they may do some very, very big mistakes with the best intention. Just yeah. So again, right? Our core duty is the well-being of the client and avoiding that they hurt others, right? And people can do so many hurtful mistakes across cultures, right? So I don't know if we have to, right? But I think we should make the effort,
Definitely.
right? Plus, it's very, very interesting. We grow from it. It helps us uncover some of our biases as we learn about different cultures, right?
Got it. Thank you so much, Krish. That was you kind of, started a beautiful conversation, and everybody learned. And I think most of us had the same question as well. Thank you for, sharing with JF. And next we have Kavita. Kavita, why don't you unmute yourself and share your question?
Sure. Thanks, Devashi. So my question to you was about like how to enhance coaching presence across cultures, overcoming the various barriers. So
Okay, thanks a lot, Kavita. I love the question, right?
thanks.
And I have to say, you heard me already say it before,
Yeah.
unconditional love first, right?
Right.
I like to say that unconditional love is like the love of the little puppy, small dog, when the master comes back home, right? And the little dog is just like so energized with love. That is exactly how I show up to my clients, with a bit of control in it. Again, if I'm going to have a client who is an introvert from Northern Europe, for example, who likes it cool, right? Then I will temper about that love. It will be underneath, right? It will be simmering, but it will not be on full display, but it will be there, right? So clients need to feel that first for them to accept to be present to us, right?
Yeah.
That's really important, right? And then being so to best be present to them, right? Kavita, it's helpful that we tell ourselves a couple of things, like there is no rush.
Right.
I'm not gonna rush. I'm gonna be there. I know we have 3 contributive parties to a coaching conversation. It's the coachee, the coach, and silence. Silence is full of answers, as Rumi said, right? And silence helps the heavy work happen, right? So
Absolutely.
I'm not gonna rush, right? And I'm going to allow myself to to receive the energy of the client, right? To receive their emotions, right? If I feel like it may be useful to make an observation to the client about what I perceive of their emotions and their energy state or shifts, I have to ask permission to do so, because that may be a destructive intervention in a coaching conversation. So at least I should ask permission to the client to do that, right? It's like, I sense something when you say that. I wonder, would it be okay if I would share it? So then as they say always, yes, yes. So then you share it, and immediately you have to say, this is perhaps absolutely senseless. It may be totally wrong. What resonates, if anything, in it with you, right? So the client has full authority to say, wrong interpretation, that was bad. It's very rarely the case, but they need to have the possibility to kick that out because it was a pollution, right? It was a mistake on the part of the coach to disrupt the flow of the session with that impulse of making an observation, right? But most of the time, it's extremely helpful, right? And that is a benefit of being present, right? Make sense, Kavita?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, John. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Kavita. Next, we have Urvashi and Kirti with their questions. Urvashi, you can
Thank you,
unmute.
Debashi. Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
Yes.
Great.
Urvashi.
And I'll take this opportunity to wish you a very happy birthday and
Thank you
stay
very
healthy,
much.
stay blessed. Wishing a wonderful year ahead to you. I've
Thank
been
you very
like,
much,
I think coaching for me, your name itself is synonym to coaching for me. All these years I watched your videos, watched all the learnings, and it has been very inspiring. Now, since I've also seen those videos where you've been very successful with language barriers. I think there was a video in 2023 that you had posted with a lady, and it was pretty done well. I'm quite surprised when you say that at the end of this live coaching demo, there was no response. It might be it must have been a very bad setback for you that where did you go wrong? So it brings me a question after, Chris also mentioned that many of the MCC and senior coaches said that they would like to go blank many a times without doing much of the cultural homework, background homework. So my question to you is, how much is too much? And when do you know it's crossing the line?
Yeah, wow, that's a difficult question. Thanks. It matters as a question as well. Thanks, Urvashi. Right. And by the way, the video on YouTube of that demo where I coach that lady in Cancun, it's not the one I mentioned earlier on, right? The one you saw on YouTube, she understood my question, right? It's the day before that I did that session with a lady who happened not to understand what I was asking her, in fact. So what you've seen is something different, right? Yeah, and so yeah, I respect the intention of coming as a white paper, right? I respect in it. I respect that high integrity desire to be totally unbiased, right? And at the same time, I prefer to. I think it's really important. So no coach is a white piece of canvas, right? They have so many biases, right? They are triggered by so many things in a conversation, the emotions of the client and all that, right? And so that can have a negative impact, right? Just the face of the coach, right? If they are triggered and then it shows, or the client will sense something in the coach, right? So we are not ever a really wide canvas, right? I respect the intention to be, right? I think it's better that we are good students of cultures to have a bit of a sense of what's happening, but not stereotype, right? It's not because I have a client from Kenya that Kenyan is going to be the stereotype of Kenyans, right? My client is so millions times more than a stereotype, in fact, right? So we want to perhaps know the stereotypes and we want to assume our client has nothing to do with the stereotype. However, the stereotype is in a corner, right? And the stereotype will be helpful when we do a bit of systemic coaching, right? My Kenyan client, right, from Nairobi, is exploring some actions he or she may take in his family or his corporate ecosystem, right? And then it may be good that interrogate not about with not checking the stereotype, right? But just asking her or him, yeah. So tell me about the culture in the workplace, right? Tell me about the national part of the culture. Tell me about the corporate part of the culture. Tell me about the gender part of the culture. Tell me about whatever, right? So they will teach to me.
Yeah.
They will teach to me what culture is at play. Tell me about the value system in your family, and perhaps the value system of the elders in the family, the value system of the youngers, the tensions, and all that. Teach me, teach me, teach me. I have no assumption. I know the stereotypes, right? But I'm never going to assume my client has anything to do with a Kenyan stereotype for, I don't know, the 7 dimensions of culture just because he's Kenyan. Yeah, you know, I've done quite a few cross-cultural workshops over the years, right? And I like to, you know, draw the lines of cultural dimension, like power distance, individualism versus collectivism, or femininity versus masculinity, or whatever, right? And then I invite the participants to position themselves in the room on that axis, right? From femininity to masculinity, or individual direct communication to indirect communication, right? And you can see some clients from the very same culture on opposite ends of any dimension, right? Plus, I ask them also to position their parents on the same scale. And then I ask them to position their grandparents on the same scale. And this is also fluid, right? So yeah, stereotypes are important for us to have a sense of perhaps like a predominant cultural dimensions in a country, right? But there are no predictor of coaches difference. I'm sorry for a very long, complicated answer.
No, that's not complicated. Rather, it's very informative and insightful to look at the areas that probably we've been missing. Because, like you mentioned about the corporate ecosystem, we are very consciously, whenever we enter into any contract or relationship with an organization, we are very well aware of to understand the nitty-gritties, the value system, and everything. However, what we miss on and what extra that we take that we should limit ourselves as a coach will always help us. So it's quite insightful to know, with your experience, that where should we draw the line, and if at all we should or not. That also is quite important. But thank you so much for this opportunity, and thank you. It's wonderful listening to you live. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Urvashi. Thanks a lot.
That was so wonderful. That was,
Yes.
I love the way you said that, the stereotypes do exist, but are we going to base our approach, or are we going to judge our client based on stereotypes? That is that would be the too much, right?
Yeah, and we will never judge, as you
We
and me,
never
Sandhya,
do.
know, we never judge
Yeah,
anyway,
we
right?
never do. And
We don't even, like you said, right? We making zero assumption, right?
absolutely. Yeah.
And that's, I think, what also the colleagues may mean who say we have to come as a blank page, right?
Yeah.
That's what I respect in my understanding of what they say, right? It's like zero assumption. Yeah.
But the
Wow.
effort that we put behind understanding the client's background,
Yeah.
I think that just the conversations, the richness of the conversation and the depth of rapport, just I really don't have a word to describe that right now. It's so deep. It's so wonderful. And it's unconditional love, as you said, based on
Yeah.
the deepest form of listening.
Yeah, thanks. And you know, Sandhya, so another benefit of learning about cultural preferences, right, is that it helps us become non-judgmental, right? Because every culture works where it's used, right? The moment
Yeah.
a culture is more dysfunctional than functional, it evolves, right? So say for me, as a guy from France, coming from a relatively low power distance culture, right? It means the boss is not much more than me. I can challenge the boss. I can say I disagree. I can criticize his ideas or ideas, right? And then to me, in my young years, right, that was the best thing in the world. It was also the only one I knew. And then I come to Thailand, right? And then I'm curious, high power distance. How could that work, right? I need to know why it works, because it works very well. Thank you very much. There is no problem. Everybody is satisfied with it. Everybody benefits from it. It's not perfect, but it works very well. So nobody can say low power or high power distance was good or bad. It's ridiculous. When it's employed predominantly in a country, the benefits are good enough for the majority of the people to be satisfied with it. Nobody can make any judgment on that.
Absolutely. It
But
is what it is.
it is what it is. We need to understand why it works for that particular ecosystem, right?
Yeah.
That is necessary for a coach, right? If you're going to coach someone who is comfortable in a culture that's very different from our own, well, you need to understand why that culture works, right? So then you come in and you have no assumption, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We have Kriti and Urvi waiting
Yeah.
for us.
Urvishi's also already asked the question, and thank you for the question. I think the conversation has gotten to a very unique space from where we started and where we are now. So, Kirti, what is that you have to add to this conversation? Please unmute and share. And thank
Hi
you so much,
everyone.
Urvishi.
Hi everyone. Uh, I'm not from a coaching background per se, but I am a seasoned learning and development professional. But I'm very enthusiastic, to get into the coaching arena and gain the ropes, how to climb up this ladder of coaching. But in my experience over the decade of working into corporates is uh, so far we have discussed that how as a coach we need to prepare ourselves to face the challenges which can come due to cultural differences when we are speaking to our coachee who is in a different setup altogether from ours. Let's say as a coach, I am fully prepared to, with my the coachee on the other side is having this unconscious bias in his or her mind that I don't want to, get coaching from this particular person because he's not from my culture or my country. Let's say hypothetically, I'm working in a corporate, and that corporate office is based out in Paris, and I know how to speak French. I'm trained, but the coachee is not very much receptive of me. How will you suggest to handle such a situation? Because that's my job. I have to do it. I cannot go and say that coachee is not ready to take coaching from me. That's a black spot on me. But to what extent can this be sorted out or not sorted out? If you can throw some light on it.
Absolutely. Thank Kirti. I'm glad you bring up this question, right? It's totally part of the conversation today, and it's very real, right? Not many coaches will have a bias about their coach, either favorable or unfavorable, right? Maybe the coach is too young. Maybe the coach is too old. Maybe the coach is from a culture where he has no chance to understand me, right? Where maybe the coach is not what I want anyway. I want a guru, I want a mentor, I want a consultant, right? But that will not necessarily be saved, right? Okay, so yeah, it's really important when we have a chemistry session, right? That is the call where we converse with the potential client to ascertain that we have a good fit on a personal level, and we try and gain some clarity about what value the client wants to create with the coach for their future. It's important at that moment, right, that we clarify how we're gonna play the game, right? I advocate against explaining what coaching is at the beginning of a chemistry conversation, because it bores the crap out of people usually. It sounds like a teacher-like, and people don't like it. They don't memorize it, right? I advocate instead in chemistry sessions that we coach the client without saying it, right? So we meet and greet, we introduce each other, right? It's very important that the coach introduce themselves with great authenticity and humility and vulnerability to make it possible for the potential client in the chemistry session to also bring up authenticity, vulnerability, and humility. And then we coach that person in our own style, right? Being perceptive of how it's perceived, received by the client, right? We coach them on what's important to them, and how they, what they would love to have happen in the coaching, what their needs are, what their unmet needs are, and all that, right? And then at the end they say, okay, well, thanks for the conversation. That was great. But by the way, what is coaching? They ask, right? And then you say, well, that was just what happened, right? So they've known your style. If they like it, they will buy it. If they didn't like it, which would be quite rare, then they will not buy it. Right? So that's step one, I would say, right, Christy? Yeah? Take advantage of the chemistry session to display how this is going to work, right? And if they don't like it, then, well, it's better they don't go further with you or me, right? It's good for them, and it's very, very good for us, right? Because we cannot afford to have engagements where at the end the client doesn't say, my coaching experience with Kirti or JF was awesome, right? They have to say that for every engagement we do, right? And then in the case, Kirti, that perhaps, okay, it started well, but then nowadays the client has some second thoughts and is saying that coach is too this or too that. For me, if you sense it's like that, or anyone senses it's like that, right? Then I would propose that sometime in the course of the next session, you tell the client, we've worked for a few sessions, right? And it's important for me to get a sense of what I'm doing that's most useful for you, what I'm doing that's not useful, what you'd like to me differently, what you'd like me to do differently, what you would like me to start doing or stop doing, right? So it's like recontracting for the next sessions, right? And so when we ask those questions to the client, we want the questions to be easy to answer. So we cannot ask, yeah, I'd love to get your feedback, right? Because that is prompting the client to say, oh, it's good, all great, right? With their lazy brain, right? They can get away with an easy answer. So because the question is too vast, right? So we have to ask small question. Yeah? I'd love to have a sense of what is the value that you get so from our session, where it's helpful, what's perhaps not helpful, what can perhaps be even a waste of time, what's missing, so only small, easy questions, right? And then they will give you small answers, easy answers, right? And then that gives a chance, right? Yeah. Makes sense, Kirti? Yeah.
Yes, it makes sense. I think such clients are like walking on a thin rope with them. It's I mean, it's same anxiety at both the ends, that whether we can meet each other and define define a customized solution for the coachee at the end of the day. Thank you so much and wish you a very happy birthday.
Thank you so much. Thanks a lot.
May I just interrupt for a while? I mean, if it's okay with Debussy and Jean?
Yeah.
This is in continuation to Kirti's question, because she mentioned she is from L&D, and so my heart just came out because I also belong to that background. One thing I'd like to also add, if John agrees to it, she mentioned that the client could be at the other part of the country and it's a corporate assignment, right?
Yes.
So it could be there could be a lot of communication gap also between making them their, at the other side of the office in understanding how this contract works. And you as a person, like you mentioned, I remember very clearly, you said it's a black spot on me. It is not a black spot on you. And one should never feel that ways, because it's the alignment that personal has, or whatever the, limitations or the barriers a person has for the different part of the country or the cultures, that needs to be handled with that HR or the, the seniority, whosoever is assigning. So one needs to be at very comfortable position. You are a coach, and your chemistry session would be secondary to what the interaction HR has already done with that employee. If John agrees, right?
Yeah, thanks for adding that perspective. So precious, Urvashi. Yeah.
That's all
It
I
was
wanted.
enlightening.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And maybe both of you can connect on LinkedIn and carry on the conversation, Kirti. I'll be happy to share the link for the page, and each one of us can follow and like network. That would be lovely. And the next question is from Marcela, right? Marcela, why don't you unmute yourself and speak?
Okay, thank you very much. And good morning for me and good afternoon for you. And thank you for accepting me in this group, because I thought it was people from all over the world, and I'm seeing
is.
that. Oh, I
It
feel.
is.
Oh, okay.
It
Well, I
is,
feel like.
definitely.
Okay. So no, thank you very much. I consider myself an intercultural executive coach, and this subject is very, very into my heart. And my question was to Jean-Francois, that from observing this group, the first thing that comes in mind, I see that people from India are very similar to Latin Americans and especially to Mexicans in managing the relationships. I see you all smiling and very and laughing, and so I'm like, oh, it seems like I'm in Mexico. So I wanted to ask Jean-Francois what he thinks of this, if he does see similarities, having worked so close with in India and having visited Mexico and known lots of people from Latin America.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Marcela, for your question and for joining us when it's now almost 4 a.m. in the morning in Mexico City, right? Muchas gracias. And Marcela, yeah, I've spent quite a lot of time in Latin America, and I've traveled to India more than 40 times in my life, mostly when I was a corporate executive in my first career, right? And I see a lot of similarities, right? But at the same time, Marcela, it's all superficial because then you go in Mexico, right? Between Chiapas and the northern Mexico, Baja, whatever, the cultural differences are significant. And you go to Kolkata, or you go to Mumbai, or you go to Chennai in India, or you go to Uttar Pradesh, right? And there are so many different cultural differences, right? And so many other differences, right? And so in a way, it's a bit, it's like, yeah, it's comforting in a way that there are some things that resonate in both cultures, right? And that's pleasant, right? At the same time, as the beauty is in what is different, right? So Marcella, if you have a chance to visit incredible India, right? Or to our friends from India, you have the chance to go to amazing Mexico, right? Both countries have many countries in one piece of land, right? It's beautiful.
That's true.
Then be excited about all the understated differences, right? That's where the learning is, right? In a way, it's a metaphor for, or an analogy for coaching people, right? They, whichever nationality they come from, they are unique. And what makes me so happy to be in coaching for so many years is we have this privilege, right? To be invited into the unique world of a unique person, and we can grow from it, we can learn from them, we can love a lot in them, right? It makes us better in some way, and everybody wins because the client as well, right? Yeah, so thanks a lot, and I'm glad
thank you
kept,
very much.
You stay awake, right? My
No, and as you said, I even woke up with before waiting for 2:30. It was like, well, when it started, I was like, oh, falling asleep. But then when you started, no, I'm very awake. I hope I can go back to sleep.
Yeah,
later.
I hope so. But it doesn't sound like that, right? Your voice is totally awake. Yeah. Wow.
Yes.
Great energy. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Muchas
Debeshi.
gracias.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
Gracias.
Thank you,
Marcella.
Marcella.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We have a beautiful acronym. Sorry. We have
Sorry.
a beautiful acronym, coined by Kavita. She's saying, I just came up with an acronym from the golden nuggets shared by JF. It is ULZAR, Azar, unconditional love, zero assumption, and zero rush. Huh.
Wow.
Fantastic. Yeah. So, Devashi, I think Dr. Urvi has been waiting for a bit. And
thank you, Dr.
And
Urvi.
we have her. Dr. Urvi, do you want to unmute yourself and share your question?
Yes, indeed. Am I audible?
Yeah,
yes.
very well.
Hello. Yeah, my question, well, thank you, first of all, for such a powerfully insightful session. There's so much that we have to take away. My question is, you have been elaborating a lot on unconditional love. And of course, what also struck me is you said that silence is the third partner in coaching. So based on that, it just reminds me of Albert Schweitzer, and that the silence of the wood reminds me of the connection that I felt with all the fellow humans. So I think my concern, however, I mean, of course, not wanting to underestimate the power of silence, is given that silence actually speaks magnitudes. But how do we handle situations where silence interpreted within a cultural context?
Yeah, thanks very much, Dr. Urvi. Right, what amount of silence is helpful? What amount of silence is hurtful, perhaps, right? Or at least uncomfortable and somewhat stifling, right? And that's where sensing the energy of the client is important, right? As we have a silence in the conversation, right? So if we have no visual, it's difficult, right? If we have a visual, we can see is the client working in during that silence, right? And the moment they seem to stop working in their mind, right, for like more than 3 seconds, then perhaps if we have a visual, right, we do something like this, right? So not opening our mouths in case there is more coming, right? But giving a sense that our eyes are asking the question like, okay, is there something coming up, right? Or do you want to share something? But no more, no words, right? Just like this, right? So that will avoid that the silent becomes a dead space, right? And then it's very difficult to get back into to get the train back in the momentum, right? Yeah, and again, yeah, we've got introverts, we've got extroverts. We are ourselves as an introvert or extrovert, right? So our comfort with silence is different, right? The client's comfort is different as well, right? We want to really sense closely, right? As long as the client is working, it's good. We let it fly. Yeah. Thanks,
True
Dr.
that.
Ruby.
Yeah,
Thank you. Thank you.
sure. Thank you so much for that. Because silence is about individuals, the way they function, right? It's not necessarily about a cultural, it's not really about cultural issues. And the other thing is that what I've also experienced, that silence on the virtual, on the virtual platforms can be huge, sometimes too long. Unless, and especially with all those conversations where, people prefer to keep their videos off.
Yeah, then that's very difficult, right?
That's very critical, and that's when you wonder what's happening. And but of course you sense the wheels in the head and heart moving, but it is difficult to really assess at that time what's happening. So you just go with it with your sense, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Without no visual, it's really difficult, right? Yeah.
So that's been a fantastic conversation, and I'm so happy. So many of us here have, everyone who joined has contributed. There's so much in the chat window, and there's so many questions. Thank you all so much. And honestly, I don't want you to stay away from your birthday celebrations this evening. So one last question or a little bit of a discussion here. We've spoken about vulnerability, authenticity, adaptability. And my personal approach on coaching, the kind of coaching mastery that we spoke about, is that all of that, along with this whole approach to cultural nuances, is a completely inside-out approach. The kind of work a coach needs to do on themselves as an individual, developing their emotional intelligence, their awareness, understanding the nuances, all of that. Now, what do you, in addition to that, I mean, my question is, would you agree with that it's an inside-out approach?
Yeah, absolutely, Sandhya. And I love the way you formulated it. Yeah.
Yeah. And what do you believe distinguishes a coach who's perhaps at the PCC level or the MCC level, where we are talking coaching mastery, in their ability to navigate and respect cultural diversity? What is those traits, those qualities that distinguish them?
So thanks a lot, Sandhya. Right, I will perhaps less try to differentiate PCCs and MCCs than speak to the mastery development. Right, assuming that perhaps some advanced PCCs may already perform more masterfully than some young MCCs. Right, and I would say that yeah, I spoke at the beginning of mastery as effortlessly enabling clients to empower themselves to unleash their best, right? And I spoke also about the importance of cultural humility on the part of the coach, right? Of absolute neutrality, and also being a good student of cultures and a lover of the differences of cultures and respectful of any culture because it works in the context, right? Otherwise, it's kicked out, right? And I'd like to add that the more we grow mastery, the more humble and vulnerable and authentic we
Yes.
are, which of course allows clients to reciprocate and be authentic, humble, and vulnerable. And then that all brings so much more into the coaching conversation. And also, the more we develop, we grow as a coach, the more we trust the process, we trust the client's potential, right? We finally really agree with ICF that the client is resourceful and creative and whole, right? And it's the evolution of our being, right? That at some stage have us wake up one good day and say, ICF is right. The client is, if I am a great coach, right? Then the client is creative, resourceful, and whole, right? From whichever culture, whichever biases they have, and I'm not a detective, I'm not an investigator, right? I'm not going. I'm a student, right? They are the teacher, right? They are equipped to teach me what I need to know and how I need to be the coach that will enable them to empower themselves. Yeah, that's mastery, right? Mindset, yeah.
Beautiful take. And that is, I think that just summarizes the entire discussion, right? So and to do all of this, we are listening at a very, very deep level. And, if we talk of competencies, then we are so, so present. It's like a life state and inside out approach for
So well
coaching
said, I think.
mastery.
Yeah.
Thank you
Thanks.
so much. And Debashi, if there are any questions or anything, we can take those. We have a couple of minutes.
I don't
And
see any question, but everybody is in awe of what they have experienced today. So whoever joined the session are left with beautiful insights. So who's walked in and who's walking out are not the same person. I can tell about myself, and from the comments that we have, yeah, it's the same. So everybody is thanking, and I'll collect all the comments and will share with you, JF. So it was a masterclass. And
definitely.
yes, and so many things that opened up. We are left in a space to think more about this topic. And thank you so much, Sandhya and JF, for making us think this way. So we all are putting on our thinking cap on this Saturday, afternoon, day, morning, whichever it is. And we are going to have a curious weekend. And happy birthday. Typically we give a gift to the person who's celebrating the birthday. But I think today you have left us, given each one of us this beautiful gift. So what can I say? Thank you. And we will celebrate in our own way your birthday by thinking about this beautiful session. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Namaste.
And thank you, Sandhya. Thank you, Sandhya,
JF.
for all the preparation. And Debashi. And everyone, have a great day.
Jean,
Thanks.
when is your book coming on cross-cultural? You've been an expert. You've been like the pioneer of this subject. You've done it when nobody did it.
And that's the wonderful part, Urvashi. He keeps saying he's not the expert, and he's done some genuine work day after day in this area.
I've said it earlier, I've grown watching your videos, your learnings, and it's been immensely grateful, grateful to you for whatever you put for all of us, out there to learn. And it's absolutely, we feel a connection. That's what I said, when is your book coming? You don't need to do you'll get a good commission on that. You have a large audience.
Thanks for the good cheer. Thank you, everyone. Be well and continue. Love your coaching. Right, we're making the world get better whenever we can, wherever we can. Yeah, thanks a lot, Sandhya, again for the invitation, and Deveshi for the facilitation. Thanks.
you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you so
Thank you
much.
so much.
Thank you so
Bye-bye.
much.
Have a good one.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye. Bye.